Hi, welcome back to episode 4 of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I am Emma Levez-Larock. I am a plant-based chef and a registered holistic nutritionist, and I have a business called Plant-Based R.H.N. And In My Plant-Based Kitchen is a series of weekly episodes where I invite you into my kitchen and we talk about questions that have been sent in by people who are watching and other things, just things about nutrition and food and plant-based, vegan, healthy vegan, whole foods living, and cooking and nutrition. So let's get started. For today's episode, I am addressing a question that came in from somebody who was watching, and she wanted some ideas on sugar-free desserts. And so before we get started on some ideas and recipes, I wanted to talk a little bit about sugar. I know this is a topic we hear a lot about, and most of us are very well aware that sugar is something that is best not overconsumed. But there are some things that just a few tips, ideas, thoughts that I thought I would share today, just in case you're looking for some extra inspiration to reduce the sugar, the refined and added sugars to your diet. So the first absolutely staggering, I think, statistic I can share is that Canadians on average consume about 88 pounds of sugar a year. And this is compared to about 4 pounds in 1776. So over a couple of, or a few, almost 300 years, our consumption of sugar has absolutely skyrocketed. And I think the health impacts of that are directly correlated as well. The primary source of sugar in Canadians' diets these days is soft drinks, but it's also refined foods, things that we're eating that have lots of white rice, white flour, packaged foods, processed foods are a huge source of sugar. But really, if you go and look in the grocery store at any labels of most things that you can buy, even tomato sauce, ketchup, soups, beans sometimes, beans, no, actually beans maybe not so much, but soups that contain beans and so on, things that you pick up and you think they should be healthy. Often, if you look at the label, sugar is one of the first ingredients, and the higher it is up on the list, the more it has in the product. So it really is a good idea to make sure you have a look at the labels if you're not already doing that on a regular basis, and to also know that sugar is called lots of different things. Dextrose, fructose are some of the more common ones, but maltose or molasses, of course, is a type of sugar, but there's lots of names for sugar that you might not necessarily think of, and I will share a link about that just in case that's something you're interested in. A really large and growing body of scientific evidence suggests that table sugar and high fructose corn syrup that are added to food and beverages in large quantities can be addictive and very harmful for, in particular, liver toxicity. But it can also lead to a host of chronic diseases, and we know that a lot of sugar in our diets is directly correlated with inflammation as well. So that's a really big thing, because a lot of inflammation in our diets can lead to lots of health problems. So really, when certain parts of a food are isolated, it becomes problematic because we take it out of its original form that we were meant to consume it in, and it makes us consume it in a totally different way. Cacao or coca leaves are an example of this. For centuries, they've been used as a mild stimulant without any addictive properties, but when it's refined down into cocaine, we know that's not necessarily true. It's a pretty addictive substance. And it's the same with sugar. When we eat, have you ever heard of anybody being addicted to sweet potatoes or corn? Probably not. But the sugar that is refined down from those products, absolutely. It's also believed that the gut microbiome has a lot to do with sugar addiction. And that is because what we eat, we are feeding the bacteria and the microbes that are in our guts, and we encourage their growth. So when we feed whatever we're feeding them, we're encouraging the growth of those particular kinds. And the kinds that like to eat sugar are the kinds that are not very helpful for us. They're the kinds that encourage inflammation in our bodies and cause brain fog and all kinds of different things. And so when we are eating a lot of sugar, those types of bacteria are multiplying in our gut. And then they are making us crave more because that's what they want to eat. They're powerful, and there is a gut-brain connection, absolutely. So it's not just about your willpower. So that's an important thing to understand, I think. What about artificial sweeteners? When as they've come on the market, they have often been touted as wonderful alternatives that can still allow you to have sweetness in your diet without all the health risks. But as the time goes on, we sort of realize that's maybe a little too good to be true. So things like Splenda, saccharin, aspartame is the other one I was trying to think of. Aspartame have really been linked to, especially problems. They cause problems in your gut bacteria again. So probably not a good thing to replace the sugar in your diet with. So what do we do? Having said all this, I don't think it's helpful to say never eat dessert again. You can't ever have anything sweet again because it's harmful. I don't think that's helpful at all. I think it's really good to empower yourself with some knowledge about foods that can absolutely be delicious and decadent and healthier at the same time. So if you do this, you won't feel like you're being deprived, and you will be it kind of takes the power away from the food and gives it back to you. So I have a few tips about this, and then I have a recipe to share, and I'm actually going to do a bit of a demo today as well. So the first tip is the natural sweeteners in whole fruit is our best option. It's probably not a surprise to many of you, but fruit is not only tasty, but it's good for us as well. I talked about this in episode 3. There are many nutrients in fruit, fiber, minerals, vitamins, also very importantly, phytochemicals and antioxidants that aren't found in other foods. So it's really good idea to include fruit in your diet anyway, and it can be a really nice snack or dessert, a sweet treat as well. There doesn't appear to be any ill effects of eating too much whole, fresh fruit. Now, when it comes to fruit juice or, dried fruits, that can be a little bit different because they've been altered from their original state. So those are things you want to be a little bit more careful and mindful about. But the fiber in whole, fresh fruit slows the release of naturally occurring fructose, and phytonutrients in fruit appear to also help to mitigate the blood sugar effect and the uptake of sugars in the intestine. So berries in particular have this effect. So making a lovely fruit-based dessert like a crumble or a fruit parfait is a really nice way to go if you enjoy fruit. Dried fruits like dates, prunes, or mangoes can be rehydrated and blended into a paste. And as I just mentioned, dried fruit is something that you want to be a bit careful with because they are very high in calories and sugar because they've had all their water taken away from them and they've been altered. So it's something to be a little bit mindful about. But the good thing is that they still have all their fiber and they still have all their nutrients. So dates, for example, are really high in magnesium. They have lots of fiber. They have lots of really good nutritional value, and they taste amazing too. And you can use them to sweeten things, and often things that you might not normally think about. So some of the things you can use it in baking as a replacer for a refined sugar. Again, I'm going to actually share a link from Forks Over Knives that is about making date paste and how to use it and how to swap it out for refined sugar in recipes. And also you could use it in things like if you want to sweeten your oatmeal in the morning. I have oatmeal and I just tend to I love having overnight oats with fruit. I just pile on the pears and I put frozen blueberries, and together that's sweet enough for me. But if you're used to having, some sort of sweetener on your oatmeal in the morning, you could replace it out with date paste, and that's a really nice thing to do. You can use date paste as a sweetener in sauces or dressings, or I've even used it in spaghetti sauce, because sometimes you know how spaghetti sauce can be a little bit acidic, which is often why you find in the packaged ones that you get at the grocery store, there's sugar added, because it kind of cuts that acidic hang that you get to it. But you can use date paste and it works really, really beautifully. So that's another way. And then you're not just adding a sweetener, you're adding some extra nutrition as well. And if you're craving something sweet, if you like dates, this is one of my favorite sort of snacks if I'm feeling like something sweet, is I'll just take a whole date, put a little bit of almond butter on it, and I'm good to go. And that, again, that protein, fat-rich almond butter bit is going to help to mitigate the blood sugar response that that's something that as sweet as a date would give you. But you still have the fiber in it, so it's really not much to worry about. Tip number 2, try using less refined sweeteners like maple syrup, honey if you use it, rice syrup, coconut sugar, molasses. These are all really nice products, but don't be fooled into thinking that they are super healthy. They are not harmless. They are still sugars. They are still somewhat refined, and they still will create a reaction in your body. So if you're diabetic, or you are really, having blood sugar issues, then don't use these foods lightly. I would say none of us should use them lightly, actually. It's really good to just be mindful. If they can be absolutely part of a delicious, mindful, whole foods diet. But I just, and I mean, I use them, but I think that it's really important to not just think, oh, they're so much better than sugar, I can definitely use as much as I want. That's not really the case. So just a little bit of a caveat there. I am going to include a link with a whole bunch of recipes that look amazing. I haven't tried any of them, but I had a look at them, and I can usually tell from what a recipe looks like if it's going to work or if it's going to be good. And I think this is a really good one. And I will be sharing more recipes to do with, healthy desserts and things like that over the time on my blog. But this is a really good one to go and have a look at if you're really looking for some healthier desserts. And then my third tip is that it's not just the refined sugar that is harmful and that you want to be aware of. Refined flours are basically, that your body sees those basically like they see white sugar. So if you're including a lot of refined flour products in your diet, if you're making muffins and you're using all, white flours, if that's a regular part of your diet, you should really maybe think about looking at that. There are lots of healthier alternatives out there nowadays. They're very available. You can make a lot of them in your own home if you have a blender. You can make chickpea flour, oat flour, that kind of thing in your high-speed blender. It's very easy, and it's a lot cheaper than buying those particular products. Things like almond flour, coconut flour, things that are made basically ground down from the whole product. They're not refined. They're not refined in the sense that they don't have all their nutrients removed from them and have other things added to them. They're processed because they're ground down, but you're still going to get all the nutrition in them, and they're going to act differently in your body. So those are some good alternatives if you want to do baking, or you want to have treats that have different, you want to make treats and still have some of those products in your diet. That's a good way to go about it. So the other thing I want to do today is maybe introduce you, or for many of you who've taken my classes or been in my support network group in the past, remind you of N'Ice Cream. It is hot. It's been a hot summer. I think there's no end in sight. So cool desserts are a nice thing to have on hand. And N'Ice Cream does not only avoid the refined sugars and the added sugars, It also avoids the dairy. And so there are many, many vegan ice creams out there these days that are absolutely delicious, but many of them are very, very high in fat and sugar and other additives that, again, as a treat, great, but as an everyday regular part of your diet, maybe not so much. N'Ice Cream is one of those things. It's made completely from fruit, and so it's going to have health benefits and be delicious too. And I have made, I mean, it's easy to be so creative with N'Ice Cream. You can use all kinds of different fruits. You can add spices. You can add different nuts and seeds. You could add a bit of coconut if you want to. You can add other little things like, you know, a few chocolate chips or some whole nuts or some, you know, pistachios or whatever you want. It's so easy to be creative once you have the base. And I will share a few of my favorite ways to make it with you on my recipe blog, my recipe that I'm sharing this week. Today, I'm going to make a blackberry lime N'Ice Cream, which is, I love this one because it's just so summer to me. You know, the flavor of blackberries. It's blackberry season here where I'm living. And these are actually frozen blackberries that I had from last year. Blackberries are even higher in antioxidants than blueberries are. So they are a great thing to freeze when they're abundant and make this N'Ice Cream or whatever you get, whatever smoothies, they're great for that too. So there are a couple of things. I don't have an ice cream maker. I'm not that dedicated. I like ice cream, but I'm not dedicated enough to make it and have an ice cream maker take up room in my kitchen. So I like this because all I need is my food processor, something I already have. But one thing to know is that this is something that you need to make kind of at the time and eat it right away. So because once it starts to melt, the base is frozen bananas. And when you first make it, when it's fresh, you can't taste the banana. It's just this beautiful creamy base. But once it starts to melt, you start to get a bit of the banana flavor, which isn't always ideal, or it's not particularly ideal in my mind anyway. I love bananas, but the extra flavor of the bananas is a little bit, I like to eat it when it's really fresh is what I'm trying to say. And I think you got that anyways. So what you do is you basically, it's just a template. You use a cup of frozen bananas, and it's a good idea to chop it up. I've got a cup of frozen bananas and I cut them up into quite small chunks. So if you don't already do this, if you have bananas that are starting to go, peel them. You can cut them up right then, or just put them into a plastic bag whole and put them in your freezer. They're great for smoothies. They're great for N'Ice Cream. Really, that's mostly what I use them for, but two really good things to use them for. So you want to put your banana pieces into your processor, and then you use a cup and a half of any kind of frozen fruit. So I've got blackberries today. I love cherries, strawberries, blueberries. All of them are great. Really, whatever fruit you like. And then you can add whatever else you like. So like I said, today I'm making a banana lime, or blackberry lime. I guess it could be banana lime too. So I've got my my zester. So you take just the zest because you're wanting the flavor of the lime. You don't really want to add extra liquid, like a large amount of extra liquid to this if you don't have to. Just going over the lime once so I don't get any of the pith that might be a little bit bitter. And then I need just about a teaspoon of the lime juice. So I'm just going to eyeball it. And then I'm going to blend this up and I'll show you the result at the end. But just know that a really good thing to do, just so you don't have to sit through the blending, is to have a spatula like this. And you're going to have to work it down a few times and then to get it to the right consistency, which I will show you momentarily. Okay, so I've done the first blend, and you can see I've got some pretty gritty blackberry here. And this is what it's going to look like initially. we want this to be really nice and creamy. So I'm just gonna work it down to the blade again. And you just do this a few times and you will get to a very creamy result in the end. Okay, so it's ready. It took four or five little mixes with passes with the down, pushing it down. And this is what you get, really nice, smooth, nice cream. And it's a little bit of a trick. You just want to do it until it's just blended, but not too warm. So you just need to play with it a little bit. And basically, you're going to have a really nice dessert. I'm going to top this with some fresh blackberries that I'm going to go and pick right now. And then I will share a picture with you. But a beautiful little dessert that is actually good for you. So that is today's episode of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to get the recipes and notifications about future episodes, you can subscribe, or you can go to my blog at plantbasedrhn.com and subscribe to the newsletter, and then you'll get a notification every week when it comes out, as well as the recipes that I am demonstrating and talking about are always on my blog there. And if you have a question for a future episode, please send me a request in the form that I will link in the show notes below. Thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your week.